Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. We have an extra special guest this week. I am so excited to finally get him on the pod. First of all, I wanted to thank the St. Louis Chess Club for all that they do and, of course, for helping to arrange this interview. Much appreciated. I wanted to thank our sponsor, Chessable.com. Our guest has a lot of amazing courses, as we will be digging into, so be sure to check those out. And he really needs no introduction. He is a chess player, a coach, an author. Like I mentioned, highly reviewed chessball author, commentator, organizer, educator, U.S. Chess Hall of Famer. He was the first African-American Grandmaster in history. Something that doesn't get mentioned quite as much is he's also quite an accomplished improver. He started chess relatively late at the age of 14 and made the Grandmaster title at the age of 33. And it is my great honor to welcome to the program Grandmaster Maurice Ashley. Welcome, Maurice.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's been a minute, man. It's known you since you were a little kid, so it's kind of funny seeing you now
Exactly.
as a grown man doing big
Yeah.
things.
Where does the time go? Yeah, so we won't bore listeners with the reminiscences, but just for some context, Maurice famously coached this Scholastic champion team called the Raging Rooks in Harlem circa 1993. And my team, Masterman in Philly, tied with them. So we actually got to go on a trip to New Mexico together. And so we've known each other since back then. Maurice was already destined for greatness, and I managed to stay out of trouble for the most part. But anyway.
Well, it's actually 1991 that we co-won the title. Very big year for us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
And then
1991,
then
amazing.
we got
And
together.
and Maurice, we've got so much to dig into, but I wanted to start with chess improvement. I was looking at a Chessable Q&A you did about 4 months ago, and there was one strain of conversation that really caught my attention. So someone asked you this. I'm going to read this question, and it's like it's not a video presentation. It's just like on a web page Q&A. This person wrote, if you're currently in NM and you had to become a grandmaster as quickly as possible in the modern environment, what would your action plan be? How long would you give yourself before giving up? Do you remember how you responded to this question, Maurice?
I think I was quite irritated by the question. I don't remember exactly how I responded, but anybody ask me a question like that, you talk about how quickly you want to become a grandmaster. And I just feel like the path to any type of mastery, it really is about dedication, it's about passion, it's about focus, about intensity. It's about how much you want it. And if you really want it, you don't ask how quickly you do it. You ask, what are the steps I need to take? And so I was pretty irritated. I think it was like a back and forth we had,
Yeah, there
if
were
I'm not
follow-ups.
mistaken. Yeah, and I was like, bro, if that's the kind of question you're asking, you're not the one. You could like pick people who you would say, I'm willing to help you, but if you ask me that question, I go, well, I'm not really feeling you.
Yeah, you wrote, the quest demands discipline, focus, resiliency, infinite motivation, and a tremendous work ethic. For me, becoming a GM was a necessity, something that I simply had to do. If the burning desire doesn't light up your soul and cause you to jump out of bed in the morning, then the title is not for you. No shortcuts, no tricks, just a passion to be great, whatever the cost. Very poetic that you just wrote that off the top, although I know you were a creative writing major. And then,
Well, I was
so
writing
you,
it as opposed to saying it now, so I didn't come across as smoothly as I did then. But yes, all those words I still stand by.
yeah, and then you had, like you said, you had a back and forth with that particular questioner, but then someone else asked you, hey, Maurice, what is the fastest way to boost your rating?
I don't
But
understand this fixation with speed. Like we live in this TikTok world, and actually, it's been that way for a long time. Anyone who's talking about mastery, about becoming better, like what exactly is the point of boosting your rating? Like to say you have a high rating? Who cares? Like seriously, if you're not good, who nobody cares. You can have the number. I'll give you a 2,500 rating. You got it. But are you any good? Like, how good are you? Can you really play? Can you ball? Like, that's what really counts. People want to know if you got game. And if you want to have game, it takes practice. Nobody gets great at anything just thinking it's going to happen quickly.
yeah, and you also, again, poetically responded to that one that whatever your rating is, you're going to be in a long line with people, a lot of people ahead of you and a lot of people behind you. So, yeah, really, really resonated as well. And I did want to pick your brain, Maurice. I'm going to try to ask you some questions. Obviously, you've been gracious and done tons and tons of interviews over the years, as well as spilled many words on the written page, etc. So I wanted to try to ask you some stuff that, mostly stuff, hopefully, that you haven't been asked as often. Now, I know you've talked a lot about chess improvement. I've often mentioned you did an interview for Cover Stories with Chess Life many years ago with John Hartman that I was one of my personal favorites. Obviously, I follow your work closely. And you mentioned at that time, and this was about more than 5 years ago at this point, that you were of the sort of old school chess learning school of thought. At least that's how you came up. You mentioned Irving Chernev's book and painstaking analysis of games. Now, obviously, that's changed a lot. We're seeing the kids get better every day, mostly using digital tools. So, has your stance evolved on how people should approach chess improvement in terms of analog versus digital?
Well, I think both are useful, but nowadays it's pretty clear that digital is just the way everybody is essentially imbibing, absorbing material. So there's no way around that. Even the old cats like me have to accept that the future is now. But I think one of the big problems is that you can sometimes be fooled that just because you can digest it digitally, that it's still not hard work, study, focus, and discipline. It's still the same. It's just the material is different. And so when I see people like immediately go to the engine, for example, for an answer when they can't figure it out, get kind of a lazy brain, if you will, that's not going to help you to become a strong player. The engine giving you the answer is not the way to train your brain when you're going to be sitting in front of somebody and they're pointing a gun at your head and you need to figure it out for yourself. You still need to sit there and solve difficult positions. I particularly hate when you're trying to solve a position like I'm not going to trash any online sites here, but I hate when a puzzle comes at you and you're like, there's one solution. You do the move, the one solution comes back, and then you don't have to calculate anything else because there's only one solution that the computer is going to give for you to respond to. And the reality is, there might have been 4 or 5 different options that you need to analyze. In a real game, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be sitting at the board and you're going to say, oh, yeah, I like this move, but there's that move they could play, that move they could play, that move they could play. You're going to go deeper into the analysis of all the possibilities that you will have to calculate. When, again, the puzzle rushes at you, wink, wink, and all you get is one answer, it doesn't train your brain. So that is, I think, the problem that most people don't realize when they train using these digital tools, and even when you're doing these quick puzzles to kind of flex your brain or warm yourself up, you're still going to have to roll your sleeves up and get deep and look at the really tricky problems that and possibilities that are in the position and discipline your mind if you're ever going to become a great player.
Wise words. And Marie, speaking of becoming great players, so for the newest edition of Chess Life magazine, you wrote about young Grandmaster Brewington Hardaway, who just became the second ever African American Grandmaster at the age of 15. Like you, he's a New York City. Oh, well, I guess you're not a New York City native, but you grew up in New York City. And he grew up in New York City as well. You've got some other parallels that you can get into. As you dug into writing about Brewington, what struck you about his story?
Well, Brewington's just a fabulous talent. I mean, the best part of his story is the fact that he may never have learned chess in the first place.
Right,
The
yeah.
way he stumbled on chess because his sister uh, got signed up for chess by mom, and she didn't want to do it, and the mother and his mother was like, "I already paid for it. You're doing it, and no options." And so, and then the other thing was that he had to sit in the room with his sister, even though he was like 4, and he wasn't going to do chess, but the mom didn't want to go drop him off and come back, get his sister, and go through all of that. So he said, just sit there and do your homework. And then him sitting there doing his homework and then just kind of looking up and seeing, oh, that chess thing, it looks kind of interesting. I mean, can you imagine just the randomness of that? And then him
Yeah.
sitting there and then the one that would end up being the GM was like the little kid off in the corner drawing pictures. And I just think that's such a funny thing to happen. And then his path was meteoric. I mean, the way he improved was astonishing. And he beat Jay Bonin, and you know Jay Bonin, of
Yeah,
course.
I was like, he was how old when he beat Jay
He was
Bonin?
7. It was 7. He
Yeah.
beating IM at 7, dropping sacre, playing the Benko and hitting him with tactics and stealing pieces. I mean, it's just incredible. His talent, I'd say, much greater than my talent was. Like just amazing that he what he did, and the fact that now he's realized that talent and is well on his path, I think, to becoming 2700.
Yeah, I was surprised in that article. And by the way, John Hartman from Chess Life tells me that it's going to be available for anyone to read online. So I'll post a link to that. But I played Brewington back when I had at least had a fighting chance, although he did win. And I've seen his development, but I was surprised in your story, Maurice, that he said he only recently, in the past few years, realized he really had to start working hard on chess. Like he got to 2300 just by showing up.
I'm telling you, sometimes you just talents oozing out your pores, and you don't even know it. And one of the challenges, like I didn't have a coach until I was 21 years old, 2021. I just was passionate about the game. My mother didn't want me to play chess. She thought it was a random activity. She was a Jamaican mother. She's like, "What is chess? Where the money day? Like, what are you doing?" Right? So it really was on me to work hard and develop what obviously was some talent for the game. And I think that a lot of times when kids do it when they're little and have a coach right away, they kind of lean on the coach, and the coach thinks for them or does the work for them, and they only do it when they're in a classroom setting, and that's when it's fun. So he did do some work outside of the classroom, but it wasn't that intense work that you need if you're going to become a GM until like the pandemic hit and he was stuck inside, and then that just transformed his life.
Yeah, and now more shared lineage. He's working with Coach Grandmaster Kaidanov, a friend of the podcast who you worked with as well. And of course, you've also got the Maurice Ashley Fellowship, where you help raise money and endow it to talented young African American chess players. And Brewington's getting $20,000 from you, which is amazing. So I'm curious what sort of advice you give him. What comes along with that money that's obviously extremely helpful. I know Brewington's in Iceland right now, so I'm sure it comes in quite handy. But what advice do you give him?
I've been fortunate that Brewington and I get along very well. And so whenever he needs me, he reaches out. There's always a text coming in at one point or another. There are times when he's not feeling so great about a result. And I'm almost like the Yoda, coming in and just giving him some words of wisdom from my experience. And I realize that, those small nuggets that you pass on really really matter quite a bit. As a matter of fact, it's funny. One of the things that I keep stressing to him, because he beats himself up when he makes bad moves, is like, bro, the path is long, and even when you get strong, you're still gonna screw up. Like
Yeah.
look at the most recent example. He just played a tournament in Germany where he made a horrible move and blew second place, and he's like just wanting to kick himself. And I said, look at the World Cup. 2700s are flaming out right now, like left
Yeah.
and right, just dropping like flies. Even when you become 2700, you're going to have ugly results. Like that's just the way it works. Chess is hard. So you have to accept that. It's a journey, it's a long path ahead. And we feel stupid, but we think it's just us. We're not the only stupid ones. Everybody's stupid. Okay, maybe Magnus is not stupid, but even he makes some terrible mistakes and kicks himself. It's like, geez, want to get that real class back in his game. So I I just pass that on. I just try to stabilize him. And the best thing I can do is get him to realize the professional path is a long and hard one. There are going to be ups and downs. You just got to stay the course.
Yeah, good advice for amateurs too. And obviously he's following in your footsteps as the second African American grandmaster. Is there any advice you give him that's different because he follows that lineage as opposed to just speaking with one of the many other young talents with whom I'm sure you speak periodically?
Not at all. Not at all. I don't need to add anything to his shoulders. Uh, I just tell him to be his best. He'll he'll represent by just being the best he can be. That's all that really matters. And in his heart and soul, he's been raised very well by his parents. He'll find his path about what he wants to do to contribute to the community at large, whether it's African Americans or all kids. He's an inspiration just by being himself.
Well said. And we've got, Maurice, some questions from supporters of the podcast. The first one up is from Brian Karen, another New York chess player. And he asks, he says, Maurice, you come from a family of highly competitive athletes, including in boxing and kickboxing. A, did you ever personally train in or follow boxing? B, what did your parents do to cultivate such a strong love of competition and sport in their children?
You know, it's hilarious. Our background is so, let's just call it interesting. Uh, no, I was never a boxer, but I was in the martial arts. My brother started me off in karate. Saito karate was the style. And so I did some with him. Later, I trained kung fu with a friend of mine who was pretty good. And then for me, later in life, I took Aikido, which is not an aggressive art at all. In fact, it's far more defensive. So I've always been fascinated by martial arts, but it's really my siblings who took it very far. My brother, in particular, was the inspiration of the family because we had no background in the martial arts. My brother only took up martial arts, by the way, because he was being bullied at school and he didn't want his ass kicked anymore. So he said, "That's it. I got to learn how to fight." And so he went into the martial arts and ended up like being a fourth degree black belt, a world champion kickboxer, three-time world champion kickboxer at that. So go figure on the motivational side. Our parents were not into the arts. Our father was a dancer, professional dancer and dance teacher. And in fact, my sister was following in his footsteps until she broke a knee while dancing. She went up on point and there went her knee, there went her career in dance. And she looked at my brother and said, "What can I do?" You know, she was just desperate. What can I do to stay in shape? And he said, "Yeah, we could do some martial arts." But her dance training helped her with kicking because she could put her feet wherever she wanted to. So she turned into an incredible kickboxer, and then she also got a black belt in karate. But then when she was kickboxing, the girl she was fighting would come inside her legs and be punching, and she didn't know how to punch. So she said, "I got to improve my punching." She went to improving her punching, and before you know it, she's giving her kickboxing. Now she's a boxer, and in the end, a six-time world champion boxer. So I would say it's interesting. Our parents never really pushed us in any of our endeavors. They just believed in us, do what you want. And they gave us that independence. They would disagree with our career path. I can tell you, my mother was not thrilled with any of us doing any of what we did, but she wasn't going to stand in our way and just block us. So now she's a proud parent of three Hall of Famers, and she couldn't be more happy than how it turned out.
Yeah, that is amazing. And hearing you discuss dancing, I know that for a while you were really into salsa dancing. Are you still into it?
Yeah, salsa, bachata, Latin dance. I love it.
Now, we know that it's a more communal activity for the most part than competitive, but is there any competitive element to how you approach it?
Not at all. It's just fun. It's just a ton of fun. I've obviously my father, as I said, was a professional dancer, and so there must be something in the genes. I never really took classes the way my sister did, but later in life, I fell in love with dance. Oddly enough, because of another chess player, international master Lawrence
Lawrence
Trent.
Trent. Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence was the one who got me into dance. We were in St. Louis at some tournament, and there was a salsa night at El Burro Loco, which is just a Mexican restaurant. And he was like, "Come on over, it's salsa night. You know, let's go dance some salsa." It's like, what the heck is salsa? I don't know anything about salsa. This was about 8 to 10 years ago, and he said, "Come on over, it'll be fun." So I was like, "Oh, whatever, let me follow him." And this guy turned out to be a dance god. I was like, "What? Knew Lawrence could dance like that?" He was killing it on the dance floor. And, I said, "Show me some steps." And that was all she wrote. When I got back to New York, I found a dance school. It was like 4 blocks away from where I lived in Brooklyn, and just started taking private lessons. And just, that's it ever since. Just been loving dance.
I mean, similar to chess, New York is a good place to be if you're an improver at salsa.
Absolutely. And similar to chess, I took it seriously immediately. It wasn't like,
Right.
"Oh, I'm going to take some beginners classes, some guru lessons." I was like, "No, I want private lessons. I want to like up my rating, so to speak." No, I wanted to be fairly decent, right away, like pretty quickly, and just be intense about it, be intentional and intense about it. I still consider myself like salsa, maybe I'm maybe a 14,
Oh,
1500.
really?
I mean, I'm probably downplaying it, maybe, but I'm never satisfied. You know, you see real dancers. You know how you could become a grandmaster like myself. I don't consider myself a good player. I mean, it's like I'm okay. When you look at the really good players, like when I played Magnus Blitz, it was ugly. Fabi spots me 5-1 and beat, I guess it's 3-1, but whatever. He's like laughing and beating me. I'm like, what the hell? I must be a complete scrub. I'm losing to these guys like this. So you know your level, you know your watermarks. When you see real excellence, you say, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about chess is you can't fool yourself really. Um, so what's Lawrence's salsa rating?
Oh my gosh. So Lawrence is definitely at least 2100, at least.
Wow, good for
If
him.
not, if not higher. He would say he's higher for sure. Because it's Lawrence,
Right.
but yeah, I mean my impression of him when I first saw him was like this guy's like I am strength in salsa at least. But reality is there are people who do it for a living and professionally. So I would say yeah, I wouldn't give it a rating. I would more just say the style. Him on the dance floor, you just wowed, and his confidence level is so high. It's just a beautiful thing to watch.
Excellent. Well, shout out to Lawrence. And on a tangential topic, so feel like part of the reason you were able to get better at salsa and obviously chess is that competitive streak you alluded to. And you've also run competitions in the chess world. And we actually had a question about millionaire chess, and then I want to get into clutch chess. But the millionaire question, this one is from Tim Brennan, who wrote the great book Tactics Time. And he wrote, I attended all of Maurice's big tournaments, the HB Global Chess Challenge and the 3 million tournaments. He writes, they were the best chess experiences of my life. Thank you so much for organizing those events. I'm curious what your reflections on these are and if there's anything in hindsight you would have done differently and how you feel about them years later. He thinks you should be very proud of them and know that people like him really appreciate the time and effort you put into them.
I really appreciate that very much. Thanks a lot for those words. Well, one thing I will say is competitive is a very interesting word. I want to before I answer the question about the tournaments, but being competitive is a very interesting word because competitive to me is somebody who just wants to win. And I am not that kind of person. I'm actually someone who wants to be good at what I do. And so excellence is more, and if you can have an adjective for excellence, for wanting to be excellent, that's really what I'm about. I'm a learner. I always want to grow. I hate to suck at something. Like if I'm going to do something, I can't stand it. Like I'm just bad. I'm not just going to do it. I'm just not going to accept that. And then of course, if you're competing against people and they're showing you how bad you are, you're like, okay, I can't tolerate this situation. I got to get better so that I can be competitive. So so competitive in that sense, we're able to compete well as opposed to wanting to win, right? Like in that sense.
Yeah.
So back to the tournaments, those tournaments were really life changers for me because they taught me about the business side of chess. I have to say, with some of the hardest things I've ever done, especially the millionaire events, organizing chess tournaments is a thankless task. You don't appreciate it when you're just kind of waltzing into a tournament and sitting down with your board and clock and let's just start playing. How much actually goes into the organization of those events? And then what we're trying to do with Millionaire Chess is to create events that were special, that treated chess players like like serious people. Like we weren't just hobby horse like that, like just going there and chilling and playing some chess. Really wanted to make it big time. That was the vision. We had a bigger vision than than the world was ready for at that time anyway. And a lot of resources went down the drain, I will tell you, making it happen. But I love experiencing it. I loved going through it in hindsight. When I was going through it, it was hell. But in hindsight, I think it taught me so much about the world of chess. Also taught me so much about myself. I want to thank my partner at the time, Amy Lee, who plunked a lot of her money down because she believed in the idea as well. Uh, so it just what I would do differently is I would probably not do it because it was so damn hard. But
Yeah.
also, but seriously, I would have more staff. We were way understaffed for what we were trying to do, and that's something I understood You don't do a big endeavor like that without including a lot more people, and we try to do it too much on a shoestring budget in terms of the staff, even though we were giving away a lot of money, and that really made it hard.
Right. Well, that's always sort of the catch is you're losing money to begin with. So it's like what you're suggesting, like it may have, maybe it would have made a difference, made it more sustaining. I'm not sure, but if nothing else, would have cost you
Mm,
even more.
I think it would have minimized the stress, but I don't know about the success of it because I think the idea was too extravagant to start. We should have probably started at a lower level instead of going all out with the big vision. Coming out the gate that big without first testing the idea, I think was in hindsight probably mistaken. Maybe we could have started off at 250 and then gone to 500,000 and build, see what the audience tolerated,
Right.
work out the kinks. But we just went all in and said million, that's it. That's where we're going. And I think that was probably the biggest error in our analysis.
And now you've come up with Clutch Chess and luckily less responsible for the funding. How are you evaluating the rollout of Clutch Chess?
Clutch Chess is a dream come true. I got to thank the St. Louis Chess Club and Rex and Jeannie Singfield, Joy Bray as well, who runs the whole operation for believing in the idea and supporting it financially. Uh, Clutch chess is just really very exciting. And what's cool is watching the players embrace the concept, and not just because there's money, but because inherently the drama, first of all, inherently it respects chess. So it's not trying to change chess or do a different variant or something like that. It's still chess, play your best chess, and be rewarded for trying to win every single game, and know that as the games or the days go on, the challenge gets harder and harder and the stakes get higher and higher. And that's the whole concept. I think the whole idea of clutch is performing under pressure when it matters most. And I think we all understand, like people in any sport, you can do clutch baseball if you want to. You just name it. If you want to have like one home runs or one as it is right now for the first 3 inning. Runs are then doubled for the next 3 innings and then tripled for the next 3 innings, right? So it would still work. The formula could be applied to pretty much any sport. And it would again raise the stakes, raise the intensity, and make comebacks much more likely.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, and some sports it's inherent the temperature rising as the game goes on, the stakes heightening. Like, if a baseball game, we recently had a World Series game go to extra innings, or like, the fifth set in tennis. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, we've got the World Cup going on. That's one where it's sort of embedded in the structure that the stakes get higher and higher as you go on. But that's not necessarily true in every chess tournament to the same extent. And I think what you're doing helps bring that up.
Frankly, the World Cup in chess is my favorite tournament. I
Yep.
mean, I think it's the best structure for a chess tournament. The idea that you're getting knocked out round after round, it gets harder and harder. You're climbing this mountain, and somebody's going to be crying, after every round, or people will be crying. You're just sending them home. It's incredible. I love this tournament. I wish it were broadcast even more spectacularly than it already is. But I think like that if not clutch chess, it's the World Cup. Like, or even I'll just say the World Cup brings so many people together that clutch chess is still working on getting to that level uh, of participation. But yes, that is how I think tournament should be. The tournament, like a round robin, it's cool, but somebody could win with rounds to spare. We know that people run away with these events, or more critically, less people are in the runnings as the tournament goes on. So with clutch chess, because the points, right, the point values are doubling and tripling, even people who started off really badly can make a serious comeback. And so that keeps you more engaged, more people more engaged for longer. You don't know who's going to win in the very end. Although if Magnus is playing,
You
it's
kind of do, yeah.
kind of messed up. But the point is the players themselves feel like, okay, if I make a run on the last day, I can still win the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, it's entertaining for sure. And so you mentioned the commentating maybe could be, or the presentation could be even better for the World Cup. Obviously, you're one of our great presenters. It's been great to see you back in the booth. You mentioned in previous interviews that out of all the things you do, which are countless, the commentating has been your favorite. Is that still the case, Maurice?
Um, I think it's the time I have the most fun, I would say. I think it's the time I have the most fun. I get to follow the best players in the world and not have any stress, enjoy the action, trash talk as much as I want, and get paid. Like, like it's just the most fun. And then I get to hang out with people like Yasser Sirwan, for example, who's just a hero of mine, one of the great legends of the game, and I get to sit next to him and trash talk him too. Like, I mean, it's fantastic. I love doing it. I have to say, classical chess, I've done enough of that now, so I would pick and choose my classical chess events. They're gonna have to be really, really special for me to want to participate. But rapid or blitz, come on, that's just that's heaven right there. What, especially with all the swings and the action, the blunders happening, the heartbreaks, the heartaches, just incredible. The drama, you can't beat it.
Yeah. It's funny though that you've reached a level where usually it's just the players complaining about the classical chess. Now, although I do see it, like my friend Jan Gustafsson, when I see him, he's always talking about when the rest days are, and you can see as the games go on, he's like, "Oh, 2 games left." He's kind of counting down. I think it's just human nature.
Listen, no, but what are you talking about? The commentators always have it worse than the players because a player can have a long game, but they can also have a short game. There's no such thing as a short game for commentators. You got like 6 games going on. God forbid you got like 12, double that, the US Championship. And then people like Anna Zatonsky, who always plays like 80 moves. And you're just like, oh my gosh, are we still here?
Right.
We'll take a draw, always fighting to the bitter end. Well, other games have concluded, the players have gone off, had dinner, and they're relaxing, and we're still there. So no, classical chess for commentators, it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. No matter how exciting the tournament, when you're in the 6th hour of commentary, you feel it. And when it's like 6 days, or let's say 4 days in a row, you're thinking, thank God tomorrow's a rest day. I get a break.
Maybe you got to start getting paid by the hour for classical chess.
I might take that up with the leadership. Bad idea.
Sorry, Rex. um, so there's so many things. One other topic I wanted to hit, Maurice. I'm really impressed with your chessable courses. You've got really creative puzzles. I mean, some drawing on endgame studies, but some stuff I'd never seen before. Like, what's your curation process? Like, is this all from the Grandmaster mental Rolodex? Are you doing database queries? Where do you come up with all these cool tactical puzzles?
All of the above. All of the above. I mean, for one, my brain, I don't like boring, right? I don't like boring. I don't like anything that's like systematized. And I've always, if anything, I'm like an idea factory. And usually there's some crazy ideas where maybe, 8 out of 10 are not going to work, but 2 of them are going to be like, oh, that's kind of cool. And anything like that, I can wake up to kind of cool and go do a search in Chessbase to find positions that you would think like, how did you even think of this, right? And that's what gets me. That's what gets me going. For example, the positions that come in my Dark Forest course, like that was me thinking, okay, material imbalance, but what about material imbalance where one side seems to be down? So I have a bishop and a knight against your queen. What are the conditions that would make a bishop and a knight beat a queen, right? Or two minors beat a queen. And so then all you have to do is just go into, I say all you have to do is a lot of work, and actually hired someone to first get the position, go collect those positions so then I could then curate them. And it took weeks to pull off everything that I wanted, but just these severe material imbalances, or just like three minors against a queen. And then to take those and take a hard look at those positions and see what are principles that apply in those types of positions. It was really interesting to see this game. You probably know the game from the World Cup that Pentala Hari Krishna just sacrificed his queen for 2 pieces. If you haven't seen it, it's like one of the
Yeah,
great games. And people are like, whoa, what a majestic game. I'm like, I got like 50 of those in my course.
right.
Go check that out. Because I looked them up, and there's just some of the most fascinating positions ever. So that's that. And then I come up with my own puzzles. You may know I'm a puzzle created myself. I mean, or study, create studies. And same deal. I just love coming up with weird stuff. One of I always come up with a challenge. For example, one of my one of the studies that I created was, could I create a position where there were four royals in the corner squares. So two queens for black, one king for black, and one queen for white. Like that was my challenge. How could I create something that was interesting where we'd have the situation where all four corner squares were occupied by three by queens and one by a king, and make it interesting, obviously, right? And when I came up with this one, I was just it's just an amazing, it's amazing study, and obviously it's in one of my courses as well.
Yeah, I interviewed I am Andres Toth right after he got back from Singapore, the World Championship, and he described hanging out with you in the VIP area. He
Yeah.
said you had some really cool puzzles for him while he was there.
Yeah, he's still asking me to send him puzzles. I think lately he's left it alone because I haven't sent him too many new creations. But I had a great time with him and Anand. It, it's my greatest pleasure to create a study that top players find difficult to solve. And watching Anand struggle with my studies, or I send stuff to Fabi or to Alireza Farouja or Geary, and they're like, "What the hell?" And when they finally do come up with the solution, it's cool. I remember stumping MVL in Madrid on a rooftop in Madrid during the candidates, and when I showed him this one, my one of my favorites ever. This is like my tombstone puzzle, the one I'd like to. I'd say if you put this on my tombstone, like here lies Maurice Ashley, and this is all you need to know about him. And I gave it to him, and it's really nasty. It's gnarly, right? It's gnarly. It's deep, but he solves these things like this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So he goes, Maurice, Maurice. I'm like, what? What? He's like, I do these in my sleep. I'm like, okay. 10 minutes later, I leave. I come back, still struggling. He has to leave to do something. He comes back 10 more minutes. He still hasn't figured it out. Finally, after move about 30 minutes in, he tells me the key move that solves it. And I'm like, okay, finally.
Wow.
But that's the stuff that I love that just thrills me to do.
That's an amazing story. How many moves? Is it the length of the puzzle that makes it difficult, or is it the width? Like how many moves is the whole thing?
Yeah, it's actually, well, every move is a story. I'd have to like show you the position, but every move is a story. Like every single move. It's not one of those where necessarily it's super complicated, the lines. There's some lines that are interesting, but every single move is a shocker. And you're like, whoa, is that what am I supposed to do this? Another one and another one. And then it has a massive twist at the end that you don't suspect is coming. When you think you've solved it, you still have to solve it. It's just a massive twist at the end when everybody's like, "Oh, now I'm there." Like, no, you're not. Mm-mm.
Do I have to
So
wait for your tombstone to see it, or will you
no,
send it to me?
God forbid. No, no, no. I'm planning to create actually, I published it. I It's on Twitter. It's like January 1st of maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
2 or 3 years ago, I just New Year, here's this my puzzle of the year, and so it's out there, it's out there,
Okay,
but
I'm gonna try to track it down. And hearing you talk about
yeah,
like sending
I could
stuff
also
to
just email it to you, man. Like it's not
I permit that. Yeah,
yeah.
that'll work as well. Um, and hearing you talk about, sending this stuff to all these legends, MVL, Ali Reza, Fabiano, etc. And obviously, you've also you taught Will Smith. You've been into shindigs with the Wu Tang Clan. Great interview on the Tim Ferriss podcast for anyone who didn't hear that. So, out of all these amazing moments, Maurice, have you ever had like a pinch me moment? Was there any one moment that was surreal, even after all your life experiences?
Hmm. Nothing comes to mind because it's so often that I feel that way. Like, how did I end up here? Right? I mean, I grew up literally barefoot, walking barefoot to school in Jamaica because didn't have any shoes. And we ended up when my mother came to the United States when I was a 2-year-old. I grew up with my grandmother. We grew up with our grandmother, and my mother was away for 10 years before finally getting everything that she needed to be able to sponsor us to come up as her children to go live with us in to go live with her in New York City. Growing up in Brownsville, where Mike Tyson's from Brownsville, I always joke that Brownsville was so rough. Mike had to get out of Brownsville,
Right.
and then finding chess at 14 and somehow becoming a decent player, getting the Grandmaster title, traveling the world as a chess player and then as a commentator, and then doing commentary for the biggest matches, whether it's the World Championships or Grand Chess Tour or Man versus Machine. I mean, it feels like all of it is a pinch me moment. Like all of it. I never take it for granted that I have this life. I just, I say gratitude is my religion, and I never take it for granted because it's like a miracle on miracles that I ended up where I ended up.
Well, of course, obviously, you also deserve a tremendous amount of credit for all the work that went into it. And having followed you for so long, like I know you earned the Grandmaster title at 33, but I also know that, and you've talked about this in other interviews, like it was a bit of a letdown to earn that title. Then it's like, what's next? And also, it's not like you're just feted when you earn the Grandmaster title. You still have to make a living. The chess world was not as big then, so I'm curious if there were years even after the Grandmaster title where you wondered if it had been worth it. You questioned the path you'd taken. Obviously, it's worked out really well as we look at the full scope.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason why I I went into organizing was for that reason. I mean, the temporary stints that I took into organizing was for exactly that reason. I became a grandmaster into a world where becoming a grandmaster meant nothing. Like,
Mhm.
okay, great, congratulations, you made history, blah blah blah, whatever. Now what? There wasn't like you make the pros in basketball and immediately, there are $1 million contracts that you're signing, or even now in basketball, there's NIL money where you don't even have to become a pro. You could be a college kid and make serious dollars from being prominent in your sport and for practicing your sport. So for me, immediately after getting the Grandmaster title was a massive letdown for me in my career. Massive letdown because I felt like there should have been more following behind it. And I wasn't good enough, or maybe was not going to be good enough to be top 10 in the world, right? Even or top 20. Even top 50 was struggling, right, in chess. Like seriously,
Yeah.
you 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 think it's glamorous, and it turns out that everyone ends up being a teacher at or a coach at that level. So unless you're unless you're really elite, you're nobody almost. So I decided that I wanted to see a world where chess players could live their dreams and play chess and make a living off of it. That letdown was the motivation for those events that I ended up organizing in the long run. So yeah, it was not easy, but I was smitten with the chess bug and still am today. So it all worked out.
Glad to hear it. And you also became elite as a commentator. Hearing you discuss your philosophy to excellence, it's clear why or how. Well, I guess less clear how. My question is how. I mean, you were good right from the beginning, but is there anything in particular you did to improve your commentary skills over the years?
You know, I guess I was born with the gift of gab, but also the ability to explain things that were in my mind. That I say is probably my best gift in life, my biggest gift. If I have any gifts, like that one right there, if there's something I need to explain to a 5-year-old, I don't care what it is, I'm gonna break it down, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense." I remember teaching physics to my niece, and she was like, "I'm failing physics." She got like a 41 on the test, and she had 41 on two exams, and she had a midterm coming up. And I was like, "Physics? But that's so easy." She's like, "What are you talking about?" Broke it down. Bottom line is she doubled her grade in her midterm, got an 82 on the midterm, and she was freaking out like, "How the heck?" But I just there's something about just if you want me to explain it to you, I'm going to break it down and you're going to get it. And that includes something like physics or it includes chess. And for me as a commentator, I'm just like energized the moment I look at a chessboard. And so I've always had this over the top sports style. I'm a big sports fan, big Knicks fan.
Nick's looking good. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All the haters out there who were trashing
Sixers
me
are okay too, though.
when we were
Don't.
losing. Let's not talk about it. Let's keep it cordial. Let's keep it cordial, okay? Not in the East. Not in the, but at any rate, um, it just to me when I'm looking at chess, it's sports, and as long as we continue to present chess in that way. And I know some people want chess to be more like, highbrow and you're looking at a lot of lines. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. And I want all our presentations to keep the energy of the game going, to keep the drama real, to get into the psychology of the players and make sure that it's graphically illustrated or presented in well enough that the average fan can understand. And I will go to any lengths to make that happen. So we just keep developing new ideas. And right now, the St. Louis Chess Club is actually creating a brand new studio that's going to be state of the art. I mean, like nothing anyone has ever seen for chess. And that's going to be happening in a few months. And you're going to see the next level of chess commentary just go stratospheric.
Amazing. All right. Well, I think just one more question, Maurice. You may have answered this, but so you're turning 60 next year. You've got US Chess recently announced they're naming a tournament after you next year at the US Open. The K-3 state championship will be called the Maurice Ashley National Tournament. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, you've also very generously set up this fellowship. What do you want your chess legacy to be besides that one puzzle that you created?
Hmm. Uh, that it, it's That's a complex question because the simple answer is he loved chess, right? That's the simple answer. He loved chess. But the truth is that I also find it incredibly important that we inspire the younger generation to become everything they can be, to believe in themselves. Uh, to me, there are just so many kids, and I was that kid sitting either in Jamaica or in Brooklyn, and I remember it more to be more real, sitting in Brooklyn, wanting to be great and having very little help, having no one around, hoping I lived in Moscow. Can you imagine? Because there was chess people there, and I'd be in that environment where somebody would realize that it was burning in me to be a great player, and somebody could do something about that. So to me, I always think about that kid. And that kid that I was, I know uh, are a lot of other kids out there who have the passion to be great at some things in life, whether it's chess, that's my vehicle to help them, but anything else. And so it's important to me that we are role models for the younger generation, uh, not just for everyone. I think older as well, but particularly for those kids who are feeling pretty helpless and hopeless about their life prospects, and to make an impact on them. And so it's always a pleasure to go to a school or talk to a young person and just give them some hope and some inspiration that they can be great. Just keep working at it. One day it'll all be okay.
Wow. Very poetic, very poignant. Thank you, Maurice. Um, well, really appreciate your taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. As we say goodbye, Maurice, any projects you're working on that we can look forward to, whether it be another course or book or more gigs?
All three.
All right.
Hey, first of all, yeah, I'm working on another material imbalance course. So watch out for that with Chessable. Uh, the book that's coming out next year, I'm really excited about. It's a book about the Kasparov versus Deep Blue
Oh, wow.
match in particular, the one that he lost, but it's a graphic novel. So it's a graphic novel's telling of that tale. And I'm so grateful that Steve Sheinkin, who is an award-winning graphic novelist, came to me, said that he was interested in doing it. And then at some point in the conversation, he said, in his heart of hearts, I would be a co-writer. And I was doing a lot of stuff, but it sounded so cool. I was like, okay, let's do it. And so We got a great illustrator, this guy Teen Farm, who is also a fantastic award-winning person as well. So we got everybody in on this thing, and Macmillan has already bought the rights. We're 3 years in, and it'll be coming out next year. So I guess next year will be the third year, since it takes a while for these things to come together, graphic novels, because of all the illustrations. And next fall, that book is coming out, and I'm super stoked because it talks essentially of the critical moment when AI becomes real. Like, people realize that there's a thing that could beat a human at chess. Nowadays, kids can't even imagine, like, of
Yeah.
course but then it was science fiction almost. So that's coming out. And then you said gigs. Well, I'm off to the World Rapid and Blitz in
Oh,
Doha
awesome.
to
All
do
right.
commentary for that. And I'll be in Cyprus, it looks like, for the candidates.
Okay.
And then all the great stuff in St. Louis. I'll probably not do any of the classical events, but
Well,
Rapid
you
and
know the
Blitz,
candidates is classical last I checked.
but it's in Cyprus. Never
That's
been.
true. It looks nice. The pictures look nice.
I'm motivated by places I've never been, and also for events I've never done personally. I've never done commentary on the candidates,
Oh,
believe it or not.
wow. That's
Like, I've
really
never
surprising.
just never done commentary on the candidates. I've done world championships without doing commentary on the candidates. So things like that are new for me. I chase new experiences, and that's one of them. So yeah, always busy, man.
All right. Lots to look forward to. Well, Maurice, really appreciate you taking the time. It's been an honor, and keep inspiring the next generation.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, man. Great to see the work you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Maurice.